Nintendo 64 is more than just a console to me. It's one of my all-time favourites. Growing up, this machine gave me some of the most memorable gaming moments of my life. The clunky controller, the revolutionary jump to 3D, and some of the best games ever made. The N64 was magic in a grey box. Today, I want to take you through a journey. The history, the hype, the games that made it legendary, and how you can experience it all over again today. Let's get back to 1996.
And with an eye to the future, tomorrow begins today. Nintendo, the world's leader in video games, has joined forces with Silicon Graphics, the world's leader in visual computing, to introduce the most exhilarating, breathtakingly realistic 3D video entertainment ever witnessed. Project Reality.
The Nintendo 64 story actually begins well before its 1996 launch. Codenamed Project Reality, this collaboration between Nintendo and Silicon Graphics promised to usher a new era of 3D gaming. It was officially unveiled as the Ultra 64, a name that excited fans with its futuristic tone, but due to trademark issues, the name was later changed to the Nintendo 64. The system launched first in Japan on June the 23rd, 1996 with 10 titles, including the iconic Super Mario 64 and Pilotwings 64. When it landed in North America on September the 29th, 1996, it came with just 8 games, but it didn't matter. The hype was real. Super Mario 64 alone was enough to sell the system. By bringing 3D gaming to the masses in a way that was approachable, fun, and genuinely innovative, Nintendo had done it again. But there were challenges ahead.
Action. Racing. Fighting. Sports. No matter where you want to go, the possibilities are endless.
This thing goes on forever.
With Nintendo 64.
Nintendo went bold with their N64 marketing campaign. From the moment the Ultra 64 name dropped, to the first glimpses of Super Mario 64 in magazines and TV spots, Nintendo knew they had something big. The Western commercials leaned heavily into edgy 90s culture, aimed squarely at teenage gamers who wanted something cooler and more mature. These ads weren't just informative, they were an adrenaline shot straight into the gaming world.
Me and you and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be the only one for me is you. Happy together.
Something's gone wrong in the happy-go-lucky world of Nintendo. Introducing Super Smash Bros., where all your favorite characters go toe-to-toe in one 4-player star-studded slam fest, only on Nintendo 64.
Nintendo hosted demo kiosks in retail stores, launched major ad campaigns in gaming magazines, and even partnered with brands like Pepsi and Taco Bell for cross-promotions. They leaned hard into showing off their graphical superiority with the N64's leap into 64-bit power and smooth 3D movement. Despite the push, the decision to stick with cartridges rather than adopt CDs like Sony's PlayStation would become a major pain point in the years ahead. Still, Nintendo's branding and memorable commercials left a huge mark. Now let's take a dive into the games. The N64 didn't have the biggest library, but it certainly had quality. These are my personal favourite games, titles that meant a lot to me growing up and still hold up today. And if you stick around to the end, I'll also have a few lesser known gems that deserve a second look. Regarded by many as one of the greatest games ever made, Ocarina of Time was a revolutionary leap for the action-adventure genre. Released in 1998, this was Link's first foray into 3D, and it changed how players thought about open-world exploration, cinematic storytelling, and immersive gameplay. From riding across Hyrule Field on Epona to solving intricate dungeon puzzles, every moment felt like a new frontier. The lock-on-Z targeting system became a genre staple, and the emotional narrative still resonates with fans decades later. This was the title that redefined 3D platforming. Super Mario 64 launched alongside the N64 and set a gold standard for movement, level design and camera control in a 3D space. For many players, including myself, jumping into Peach's castle for the first time and discovering a whole world inside those little paintings was magical. The game felt alive, playful and experimental in all the right ways. Whether you were chasing rabbits, soaring with the wing cap, or diving into sunken ships, every level felt like a new toy box. Often overlooked but hugely impressive for its time, Pilotwings 64 showcased the system capabilities right out the gate. It was part tech demo, part relaxing arcade flight sim, and completely addictive. Taking to the skies in a gyrocopter, rocket belt or hang glider gave players a new sense of scale and freedom. The physics were surprisingly deep and the whimsical tone made it a perfect contrast to other launch titles. It still holds up as a fun, calming experience today. Rare's GoldenEye wasn't just a great movie tie-in, it helped define the console FPS experience. The single-player missions were surprisingly nuanced, with optional objectives and stealth mechanics, but the real magic was with the split-screen multiplayer. 4 friends huddled around one TV, arguing over who got to be odd job. That was real N64 magic. GoldenEye laid the groundwork for console shooters like Halo and Call of Duty. Taking a darker and more emotional turn than Ocarina, Majora's Mask is often remembered for its eerie atmosphere and time loop mechanic. Released in 2000, the game challenged players to relive the same 3 in-game days over and over to prevent the moon from crashing into Termina. It felt haunting and deeply personal, and the mask system gave players new powers while exploring the game's themes of loss, grief and identity. It was bold, strange and unforgettable. Paper Mario was a refreshing twist on the RPG formula. With its charming 2D aesthetic layered over a 3D world, clever writing and strategic turn-based combat, it offered something truly unique. The world was filled with personality, from talking flowers to snarky Koopa Troopers, and the badge system gave you tons of customization. It was an accessible RPG with surprising depth, and remains one of the system's most beloved cult classics. Another Rare's masterpiece. Banjo-Kazooie redefined the 3D platforming genre introduced by Mario 64. With its vibrant worlds, witty humour and tight controls, this game was bursting with personality. Banjo and Kazooie's abilities were smartly designed, and collecting jiggies and musical notes never felt like a chore. From Clanker's Cavern to Mad Monster's Mansion, each level was a joy to explore. Banjo-Tooie took everything that made the original great and turned it up a few notches. The worlds were bigger, the puzzles more intricate, and the character roster expanded. It introduced more interconnectivity between levels, making exploration even deeper. Rare pushed the N64's hardware to its limits with this one. It was ambitious, a little overwhelming at times, but packed with content. Easy to pick up but hard to master. Mario Tennis was a shining example of arcade-style sports done right. With a colourful cast of Nintendo characters and rock-solid mechanics, this game became a staple for both solo and multiplayer gaming. The game also marked the debut of Waluigi. The depth in shot variety and timing gave it surprising competitiveness, great for quick matches or long tournament sessions. Just like its tennis counterpart, Mario Golf offered an approachable yet deep experience. The courses were imaginative, the physics were solid, and the challenge scaled nicely from beginner to expert. Whether you were chasing birdies or just relaxing on Mushroom Kingdom's fairways, this game had tons of charm and addictive progression. Rare's largest game for the console in terms of scope. Donkey Kong 64 was both ambitious and divisive. With 5 playable Kongs and sprawling worlds, it offered tons of collectibles and variety. The 3D platforming was solid, and while the infamous collectathon style wasn't for everyone, it gave players hours upon hours of content, especially if you were completionist. And of course, we shouldn't forget the infamous DK rap. A completely original and chaotic experience. Last Call had you clearing paths for a runaway nuclear missile truck by blowing up buildings. Whether piloting a bulldozer or mech, it was about creative destruction and puzzle solving under pressure. It was weird, loud and wildly fun. Another rare gem that showed how experimental the N64 era was. Lylat Wars, also known as Star Fox 64 in North America, was a huge leap forward for cinematic gaming. The voice acting, branching mission paths and rumble support made this feel like a real space opera. The R-Wing controls were tight and the set-piece battles were spectacular for the time. Rare's answer to Mario Kart, Diddy Kong Racing surprised everyone with its adventure mode, charming world and 3 different vehicle types: karts, hovercrafts and planes. It also introduced characters like Banjo and Conker before their own games came out. It felt more than just a racer, it was a full-on adventure that encouraged exploration alongside competition. One of the most beloved multiplayer games of the time. Mario Kart 64 was chaotic, hilarious and endlessly replayable. The drift system, weapon variety and track designs from Rainbow Road to Bowser's Castle made every race feel fresh. It may not be the most technically perfect Mario Kart, but it had some of the strongest nostalgia. Rare's spiritual successor to GoldenEye, Perfect Dark pushed the N64's hardware even further. With a deep single-player campaign, customisable multiplayer bots, and more futuristic weapons and gadgets, it was ahead of its time. You needed the expansion pack to get the full experience, but it was well worth it. Joanna Dark has become an icon in her own right. A surprisingly polished and underrated racer, Beetle Adventure Racing featured real licensed VW Beetles and massive tracks filled with shortcuts, secrets and alternative routes. The game handled beautifully and offered more replayability than you might expect. It was arcade racing at its best, fun, fast and surprisingly deep. With blistering speeds and a thumping soundtrack, F-Zero X was pure adrenaline. It ran at 60 FPS, which was a rarity on the N64, and had 30 racers on screen at once. The difficulty was high and the physics were brutal, but mastering it felt incredible. It remains one of the most technically impressive racers of the generation. If you want to feel like a real rebel pilot, Rogue Squadron has you covered. The sound design, the fast-paced missions and the gorgeous visuals, especially with the expansion pack, made it a fan favourite. Dogfighting in an X-Wing through Beggar's Canyon was every Star Wars kid's dream. Technical marvel. Resident Evil 2 on the N64 crammed the entire multi-disc PlayStation game into a single cartridge, and even added extras like randomizer modes. The port retained its atmospheric horror, sharp writing and tense gameplay. It was a major milestone for survival horror on Nintendo consoles and proved what the system could really do. The best of the early Mario Party games, Mario Party 2 refined the formula with better minigames, themed costumes for each board and less of the hand-destroying madness of the first game. Whether playing with friends or enemies, this game could make or break relationships, but it was always fun. Cool, fast and stylish. 1080 snowboarding combined realistic physics with arcade flair. The carving felt fantastic, and pulling off tricks on the downhill courses gave it a real sense of momentum. The sense of speed and impact was unmatched at the time, and it became a go-to for extreme sport fans on the system. Conker's Bad Fur Day flipped expectations on their head. Developed by Rare, this late-era N64 game took a cuddly squirrel and dropped him into a wild, adult-themed adventure packed with crude humour, movie parodies and surprising gameplay variety. It looked incredible for the system, had full voice acting and wasn't afraid to push the boundaries. While it flew under the radar at launch, it's now becoming a cult classic and one of the most unique titles on the platform. Let's talk about some of the hidden gems on the N64. These are some of the titles that may have flown under the radar but are absolutely worth checking out. If you've made it this far into the video, you're in for a treat. These games may not have topped the charts, but they've definitely carved out a special place in my memory. Space Station Silicon Valley is a quirky, innovative puzzle platformer that lets you take control of robotic animals in a malfunctioning space station. The creativity in its gameplay mechanics and level design make it one of the most original games on the platform. It's a little oddball, but that's part of the charm. If you like experimentation and humour, this one's for you. San Francisco Rush 2049 is Midway's futuristic take on the Rush series. It's a high-speed racer with a twist, Stunt Wings. The driving is tight and the tracks are full of shortcuts and secrets. And the multiplayer modes, especially the stunt mode, offers hours of chaotic fun. It's the perfect blend of arcade racing and sci-fi style that still feels unique even today. If you're into tactical RPGs, this is a standout. Ogre Battle 64 combined real-time strategy with role-playing elements, political storytelling and meaningful decisions. It was one of the deeper and more ambitious games on the system, but due to its limited print runs and niche genre, many missed out. It's definitely worth hunting down today if you're looking for a meaty, intelligent experience. Mystical Ninja is an action-adventure that blends Zelda-like gameplay with Japanese humour, culture and giant robot battles. It's wonderfully weird and charming, with tight controls, colourful visuals and a memorable soundtrack. It's the kind of game that's tough to compare to anything else. Uniquely Japanese, unapologetically odd and a blast to play. These are my top gaming picks on the N64, and they show off the range and creativity it was capable of. They're all worth revisiting today. The N64 sold around 33 million units worldwide. It performed especially well in North America, where it outsold the Sega Saturn and maintained a strong presence due to family-friendly branding and couch multiplayer staples. However, it struggled in Japan and Europe, partially due to its limited third-party support. While the PlayStation ultimately dominated that generation in terms of units sold and software support, the N64 left a permanent legacy. It brought 3D platforming to the mainstream, introduced the analog stick, and laid the groundwork for modern multiplayer gaming. Even today, the N64 holds a nostalgic charm. Its colourful graphics, memorable soundtracks, and chunky cartridges have become symbols of the golden age in gaming. And that's a wrap at my look back at the N64, a console that means so much to me. Not just as a gamer, but for someone who grew up during that era. The memories tied to these games, the friends that I played with, the late night sessions trying to beat that one impossible level, they're all still vivid. The N64 wasn't just a leap in technology, it was a core part of my childhood, and probably yours too if you're watching this. If you stuck with me this far, thank you, truly. This video took a lot of time, research and passion to put together. It means the world to be able to share that with people who care just as much about gaming as I do. If you enjoyed the video today, please consider giving a like, and if you want to see more retrospectives, console histories or deep dives into classic games, hit that subscribe button and turn the notifications on so you don't miss the next one. I'd also love to hear your thoughts today. What was your favourite N64 game? Did I miss one that deserves more attention? Drop a comment down below, I will read every single one. Thanks again for watching and I'll see you in the next video.